midweek edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, a show that is for the fans, by the fans. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher. You can follow me at Chris Belcher24 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The show is at PBWP Podcast on those platforms as well. Make sure that you give us a like. Make sure you subscribe wherever you find your podcast. Give us that 5-star review. We would appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe to the BodySlam.net YouTube channel and tune in to SportsWire Radio, your 24/7 home for all your sports needs. That is sportnarium.com/player. Thanks so much to those partners. And thanks, of course, to my partner in crime, the Young Buck, Mr. Andy York. Andy, we were talking before we hit record, and it's sort of a quiet week. Other than this White Rabbit stuff, I mean, everything is kind of quiet.
Which means on Friday, the day after this episode drops, something's going to happen. Like that's normally what happens is our quiet week ends up not ending very quietly. So maybe something crazy happens Friday. Who knows?
That is 100% fact. That always happens. I'm pretty sure that, that's what happened when Vince left. Vince left on a Friday and we dropped a show on a Thursday, and it just, again, we say it all the time. We're not kidding, people. With your support and with your word of mouth, we can get this show to every day and make it a full-time gig. And that's what we need. If you want to keep up with our opinions on the latest wrestling news, we need a show every day.
Me too. Because I think the Cody situation was on a Friday too, because that's when we did the breaking. I think it was on a Friday. Yeah. So Friday's right. Like when the news breaks, it seems like.
You're right. Good and bad. It all breaks on Friday. So, speaking of that, I just thought of something that we didn't even mention last week that we should probably mention this week. Anyway, make sure you're following along with us at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Let's break it down, man. Let's get to AEW Dynamite tonight. And you let me know before we started that next week is the 3-year anniversary of AEW Dynamite. Can you believe we've actually made it that far?
I know. It seems like just yesterday this company got started. Like it's crazy that we're 3 years into this already. And I think other than obviously this third year has probably been in a weird way, that might be their most successful and their like most challenging year by far. But they, 3 years in 2019, first year, it's crazy that we're already to this point. And I think they're going to pull all the stops out for next week's episode.
I have to tend to think that you're right. It's really funny because you and I got to see an AEW show literally 6 weeks after the Dynamite inception.
Yeah.
So they were in Nashville in the beginning of November. Yep. So it was 6 weeks.
That's when Wardlow made his debut.
That is when Wardlow made his debut.
And none of us knew who he was. And now he's one of the mainstays in the company.
That is correct. So, my how long it has been and my how far we have come. Let's talk about a couple of guys who have made their impact, obviously from coming from WWE over to AEW. Let's talk about Buddy Matthews for a minute, man. Buddy released a statement, or he made a speech at an indie show over this past weekend that was very similar to what Malakai Black had said. And we'll get to Malakai in a minute, but it's very similar to what Malakai had said, that he needed to go take time away, and all signs kind of pointed that he was quietly released. Man, the House of Black is literally crumbling at this point.
Yeah, I don't know, man. There's so much convoluted stuff with both Buddy Matthews and with Malakai Black. Because I'm sure we're going to talk about Malakai Black very quickly Monday night, going on Instagram Live and just ripping everyone a new one in the wrestling media. I don't think he has been released, because the new thing coming out of AEW is like they're just not going to release people. Like they're just going to let contracts run out. They're not going to release people. I think the only exception to that rule might be Punk. I think they may buy out Punk's contract and then just let him go. But I don't really think they're going to do that for anybody else. So I don't think this is the end of House of Black and AEW. I just think both guys probably needed some time to take some time for themselves, because Malakai Black made it very clear that he plans on returning to AEW whenever he gets back to wrestling.
We're going to talk about that in just a minute.
Yeah.
But I just find it really interesting that, like you said, it's the guys in House of Black. Like one, it happened to one, and now the next one. And I'm not saying that Brody King is next, but it's just really strange that they're all in the same faction. And it seemed to be the exact same pattern of I need to take some personal time away.
Yeah.
Yada, yada, yada. I'm not saying there's real life creepy things going on with House of Black or anything. I just find it really interesting that those two statements were so similar.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously we're not going to speculate what's going on in their personal life
Sure.
that they would need
Absolutely.
to take time away, because everybody's at some point or another has to take personal time for something. And so, I don't really know. I think it is very interesting, and I think it may be one of those that might just be a coincidence that it's happened like this.
Right.
And so I don't really hold a lot to it. I personally was never of the belief that they were just going to jump ship right away and try to go to WWE.
Mhm.
And I don't think that's still going to happen like right away. I think there's a day when both of them will be back probably in WWE, but I don't think it's going to be anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. It's really hard to, obviously it's hard to predict in this day and age as the way things are happening and how quickly things are transpiring and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, one guy that is clearly saying that he is not going anywhere is Swerve Strickland, aka Isaiah Swerve Scott. Man, what do you make of the comments that he said where was talking to somebody? I don't remember what interview it was, but anyway, that asked him about his time in WWE and if he wanted to go back or whatever. And he said he has been happier in 3 months in AEW than he was in the entire 3 years he was at WWE. Man, it couldn't have been that bad. For 3 years, I think there's some exaggeration going on there.
Well, you got to remember when he was in NXT, he wasn't doing a whole lot until Hit Row came around. Like he wasn't doing that much before Hit Row.
Yeah.
And then Hit Row got called up really quickly, and then all of a sudden Vince just dropped them all like flies. So I think a lot of people remember his time with Hit Row because obviously it was the thing. Like it was one of the most popular things in NXT. Everybody was looking forward to it when it got called up to the main roster.
Right.
And then it all fell apart really quickly. So he's probably exaggerating. He's probably just bitter towards how quickly he got released, which to be fair, I probably would be too, with not even getting a chance to do anything. I think they were called up for a month, if that, before they got released.
Mhm.
So they literally got no time to do anything. So I get the frustration. I get where he's coming from with it. And to be honest, I've enjoyed him in 3 months in AEW a lot more than I did while he was in WWE.
I don't know. I think it's just different. I can see both sides of it. I just don't. I don't know. I guess I can't see how you would be that unhappy that you would compare 3 years to 3 months. But I mean, I guess it is what it is. I'm not in that position to compare it, but still, like I don't know. That's mind blowing to me. Swerve and Keith Lee drops tag team titles at All Out. I'll be interested to see kind of where that goes. Speaking of stuff from All Out, looks like we're getting a rematch, as we found out on Dynamite tonight. We're getting an All Out rematch between Chris Jericho and Bryan Danielson, but this time the ROH World Championship is on the line, held by Chris Jericho, not by Bryan Danielson.
Yeah.
You got to think, Andy, that we're circling back and we're doing this again. This second round has got to be better than the first round, right?
This is the third round.
Oh, that's right.
They fought in the tournament, which their match on Dynamite was a lot better than
I forgot about
their pay-per-view
right.
match.
Yep.
I think this is. I mean, Jericho's promo after he beat Bandito tonight was that he wanted to kill the legacy of Ring of Honor. He wanted to beat every world champion that ever existed in Ring of Honor, which there's a lot of guys in AEW that fit that mold. He said he wanted to beat every alumni ring announcers and ring announcers, and he actually attacked the ROH ring announcer that after the match was over. So it looks like they're going with like maybe they're trying to kill Ring of Honor, quote unquote, and who knows who's going to be the savior. So I don't really know what to expect from that match. It's going to be in Jericho's hometown. He's going to be the baby face by default because it's his hometown. So I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with that. I like this direction of having a guy, because we talked about it when he won the title last week. Jericho doesn't fit the Ring of Honor mold, so it makes sense for him to be the guy that would try to kill Ring of Honor, like just to end Ring of Honor completely. If this is the direction they're going for, I hope they let this go out for a little more. Like, I hope he beats Danielson. I hope he goes through Jay Lethal. I mean, could you imagine Adam Cole and Chris Jericho having a match for the ROH title? Things like that. The prospect of having him go after former champions is really, really, really exciting to me.
I'm looking it up. It looks like, because we were talking about this before we hit record, October the 12th, Dynamite. So in 2 weeks, so not this upcoming week, but the week after, is going to be in Toronto. That's where the match is going to happen. Excuse me, it's AEW's debut in Toronto. Speaking of ROH,
that crowd's going to be hot that night.
Yes. Canada crowds are always hot as it is, and then you put those guys in there, and you're really going to split the crowd. I know you said that Jericho's the hometown favorite, which technically he is, but you know, Bryan Danielson, everybody loves that guy.
They'll cheer for Jericho in the beginning, but Danielson will get them back by the end of the match. Like that's normally how that goes. I wouldn't be shocked if Christian shows up in some capacity as well. First show there, it's his hometown as well. So I expect that show to be something spectacular because they're going to want to make a statement in Canada. Is this their first show in Canada ever?
It's their debut in Toronto, but I don't know if it's their debut in Canada. Let me pull that article.
Because I don't remember another episode where they were in, because the pandemic hit pretty quick before they could travel.
It says debut show in Toronto, according to this website. Let me see here. Yeah, debut show in Canada. Okay, yep, that's right.
Wow. So they'll pull out all the stops, because if we learned anything from WWE this week, the shows in Canada, when they go overseas to England and stuff, they do some big stuff, and so I'm sure this is no different.
Well, the last wrestling show in in Toronto was Edge versus Damian Priest in the main event. Trish Stratus showed up. And Johnny Gargano came back. So
there's people love to go to Canada and give the Canadians some love.
Well, and not only that, but now WWE says, okay, here's what we did in Toronto, AEW. Let's see what you got,
And I can almost guarantee there'll be an FTR match with Bret Hart in their corner. Like, I can almost Bret Hart will be there in some capacity, I feel like.
That I don't know. He just signed a deal with WWE not long ago, so I don't know if that means he can go over or not.
Oh yeah, because he was at the Clash of the Castle, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yep.
So maybe he won't be there.
Maybe he won't be there. But you better believe those FTR boys are going to pay tribute to him.
Oh, absolutely.
And being there, they're going to wear those.
They're going to be in black and purple as soon as they come out.
Yeah, they're going to wear those Hitman colors again.
Yeah,
for sure.
Black and pink. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Jericho, let me tell you, I know you mentioned just a few minutes ago, last week we talked about how weird it is that Jericho's the ROH champion. I tell you what, I didn't realize that it was his 8th world championship. We may have mentioned on the podcast in passing, his 8th world championship. Bro, the Jericho Ocho shirts that have come out, I need one in my life.
That's how they announced him tonight, was he has a new nickname, and it's the Ocho.
Of course it is.
Jericho. Yeah.
And all of the memes of him and with the dodgeball guy and oh my gosh.
It's perfect.
It's so perfect. Good. Whoever came up with that I love it.
I'm sure it was Jericho.
I'm sure it was. Speaking of that, speaking of Jericho and AEW and just all the things that he's done, go back, for those of you who are listening or watching, or Andy, you as well, go back a couple of weeks on the Talk is Jericho podcast feed. He did a live show over in England, I think is where it was, with the guy from Inside the Ropes, and he put the audio of one of the shows on his podcast feed, and it's all about the inception of AEW and Jericho's role in it, and he goes really deep into a little bit of the bubbly and that storyline and how all that came about. So if you haven't listened to it, it's an incredible listen. Go back and check it out. It's very cool.
Yeah, I've heard bits and pieces of it, and it's absolutely incredible. His cruise is coming up, isn't it?
Yes, end of February, I think. So not super soon, but pretty soon.
I honestly wouldn't be shocked if he didn't hold that ROH title until then, like even past then. Him going in as Ring of Honor champion on the cruise, defending it, like that's almost a no-brainer at this point.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, you're right. That would be cool. Also on Dynamite tonight, Juice Robinson. Is this his debut appearance on Dynamite?
I think so. I believe it is.
I think so too. In a losing effort to Jon Moxley, but I mean,
banger. It was a great match.
These
it was
two
so
guys.
good.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they fought a couple times over the IWGP US Championship, and it's each time is just stupid good. So it's amazing that Juice Robinson was in NXT for like that short period.
Man, then, I totally forgot about that. Oh my god!
Because I think he's the one that broke Kevin Owens' nose.
Really?
When Kevin Owens came in as a babyface, I think his debut match was against Juice, and Juice broke his nose because it was the takeover when he turned on Sami at the end after Sami won the NXT Championship. I believe that's the show that Juice was on as well, and then I don't think he was on anything after that. And then he went back to Japan and went on a tear. He's now part of Bullet Club. Like he's killing it right now.
That's right. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
Speaking of Japan and all that kind of stuff, I saw pictures floating around that Gato, the booker for New Japan, was at Dynamite tonight.
Yeah.
So it seems like we are trying to continue this Japan AEW relationship. Wasn't there rumors a while, like shortly after Forbidden Door, that things were like quickly falling apart or something? Did I read that incorrectly?
I think it was before Forbidden Door that I think there was some tension or something, but I think they've worked it out and they've continued the storyline of Jon Moxley versus Japan, bringing Juice in and having him wrestle, having him wrestle Moxley. So
what else on Dynamite, man? Anything else really jump out to you? I know Tony Storm defended the title, and Saraya, aka Paige, showed up and cut a promo, all that kind of stuff. What else jumped out to you?
The promo between Saraya and Britt Baker was really, it was good. You could tell Saraya hasn't been in a ring cutting a promo in a while. She was nervous. You could tell she even says she was nervous, which, I mean, first time cutting a promo in 2 years.
An unscripted promo in how long?
Yeah. So it's going to take a little while. We know Paige is good on the mic. Like when she gets going, she's good. It's going to take a minute. But Britt Baker, she dropped a line where she said she's poured her literal blood, sweat, and tears into this division, and even her neck. But her neck was able to hold it up and hold the division up, unlike Saraya's. And like the place went crazy. It was a good shot back and forth. And the match between Serena Deeb and Toni Storm was actually the first ever lumberjack match for the women's title, which it was really good. Toni Storm won with a middle rope pile driver to pick up the win because Serena kicked out of the Tony driver, which was crazy, and then took up to the second rope, dropped her on her neck for the pile driver, and picked up the win. So it was a really good match, really good segment, and it only adds more hype to Saraya being there.
What are you? Have you read anything, heard anything about Thunder Rosa? I know there's been a lot of rumor going around about backstage heat, and all that kind of stuff. Have you read or heard any updates?
I haven't heard any or read any. I just know that the injury that and this is all speculation, but this is like a Shawn Michaels lost his smile injury potentially.
Jeez.
So it might not be true. She may actually be injured or banged up or whatever. But there are some speculation that she just didn't want to drop the title, so she was injured. So
you want me to go down a rabbit hole for a minute?
Oh, here we go.
You want me to go to bat for Shawn Michaels for a minute? Shawn Michaels was legit hurt. All right. He was legit.
Was that during his back problems?
No, that was his knee. His back was the next year. Again, this really sounds great that I'm going to bat for him. Like, no, that wasn't that injury. It was a little before, whatever. Anyway, Shawn was legit hurt. What happened was, and this is according to Bruce Pritchard, Shawn had gone to a regular, like, not necessarily like a family doctor, but he had gone to a regular doctor in San Antonio to get his knee checked out.
Mm-hmm.
And that doctor did tell him, you probably shouldn't wrestle anymore. Your knee's messed up, yada, 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 whatever. And so that's what set in with Sean. And, hey, that's what I'm doing. Well, after he forfeited the title and after he lost his smile and all that kind of stuff, then WWE talked him into going to an orthopedic doctor, someone that was experienced in wrestling
Right.
injuries and all that. And then they told him, no, we just need to scope this thing, clean it up. You'll be good as new in a couple of months or whatever. So that's how that story in theory actually happened.
Right.
Was there some of the fact that Sean didn't want to drop the title to Brett? Of course there was. I'm not going to deny that. But he was legit hurt. It just wasn't as hurt as he
led on to be. Yeah. Now the back injury was from the coffin, right? Where
back
he
injury was
got
the back
tossed
drop on the coffin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And that was legit
That was legit because that's a nasty bump. Even in today's standards, that's a bump I don't think anybody would want to take.
That was Sean being cocky and telling the Undertaker, yeah, just backdrop me. I'll clear the casket. No problem. Okay. Woke up 2 days later and he couldn't move. So, yeah. Way to go.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of WWE, I saved this portion of AEW to the end so that we can tie it together. And I'm talking about Malakai Black. Now, let's talk about let's talk about the stream. You mentioned it earlier. Malachi went on this huge rant, ripped a new one for every wrestling journalist and reporter that's out there saying, no, he's not released from AEW. Yes, he will be back soon. Basically, it sounds like, hey, get out of my personal life. I'm allowed to take a vacation. I'll be back. That's what I got out of it.
Oh, I watched it live, and he was sick and tired of having to deal with this, and you could tell. And he's not the type of guy that would be like a Jericho or an Edge that would say something to just kind of rile the fans up. You know what I mean? I feel like with what he was dealing with, especially if he is dealing with the mental health stuff that they talk about, I don't feel like he would actually go out there and do that if he wasn't being legit. Now I think that there were problems between him and AEW, and that he didn't like the direction the character was going in, the House of Black was going in, blah 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 blah. According to wrestling media, which I know you got to put quotations around, but it's from Sean Ross Sapp, who has said from the beginning there is no indication that he has been released. He hasn't been released. There's no word he's been released. Right. So like he's been from the beginning out front more than other stupid wrestling journalists that just post whatever they want to post. Right. Wrestling journalism, man, is just almost as bad as college football journalism at times.
Except Josh Pate. Josh
Pate is amazing. Yes, Josh Pate.
We love you, Josh Pate.
Except for his ranking system, but that's just another day.
I'll explain that to you.
No, I know. I get it. I get it. I agree. I completely agree with his ranking system for us for Kentucky, because I don't think we're where we're supposed to be. I think we're a lot lower we're too high for where we're supposed to be.
That's definitely true.
But I don't agree with most of what wrestling journalists say, and he has come out and said, like, I'm not released, I'm not going anywhere. When I come back to wrestling, I'm going back to AEW. And I feel like he wouldn't lie like that and put AEW in a bad spot and put Tony Khan in a bad spot. Like, I don't feel like he's that type of guy. And like I said earlier, I think there will come a point in time where both him and Buddy Matthews probably end up back in WWE. Right. Because he even said his contract doesn't run for 5 years. He didn't say how long his contract ran for, but his contract isn't a 5-year contract. So we don't know. I don't know exactly when his contract is up. So maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years, whatever the case is, I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up back in WWE. But I don't think he's going to get released and then go straight back there, because I don't think he's going to get released at all.
We're at just over a year on his contract, I think, because he debuted at their first live show with a full capacity. And I think that was the end of June, beginning of July, because WWE AEW went back to full capacity a couple of weeks before WWE did.
Yeah.
And WWE, their first show back was Money in the Bank, and that was in the middle of July.
Yeah.
So Malachi was shortly before that. So, I mean, if it is like 3 years, we still got, a year and a half to go.
Right.
But speaking of wrestling journalists, before I get to the other side of Malachi, the promo that Andre Chase in NXT cut.
Oh, it was amazing.
Talking about wrestling journalists and quote unquote Dave.
That was amazing.
Bro, I don't follow much NXT, but I saw that pop up on my feed and that was so good. I loved it.
Speaking of NXT promos, did you see Braun Breaker bust out the Steiner math?
I did. Yes.
Oh, the pop he got when he started busting out the Steiner math was amazing.
Yes.
Have you seen the Table for Three?
I have not yet.
There are bits and pieces where they're like the Steiner brothers are hyping up Braun Breaker, telling him he's doing a great job. And Scott Steiner leaned back and said, "Yeah, just keep taking my stuff and you'll get there."
That's great.
So,
okay, here's the other side of Malachi. You ready? And this is how it ties to WWE. I believe exactly what you're saying, and I believe what Malachi's saying. I don't think he's the kind of guy that would play both sides and intentionally lie. Maybe he would pull some punches to get, some buzz or whatever. But I don't think he's going to put AEW in a bad spot, like you said, unless there truly was some bad blood or something happened or it's worse than we all realize.
Yeah.
Here's where the WWE reference comes in. We're going to go down a legit rabbit hole right here. Have you heard this? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. For those of you who have not heard it, let me just clear it up for you. And the first time that I heard it was from Ryan Satin on Ryan Satin's
That's where I heard it.
podcast.
Well, he tweeted it out Monday night.
Oh, we did. Okay. So Monday night, we get a White Rabbit clue, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. We get a White Rabbit clue on Raw.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a QR code that pops up in the middle of Dominic coming down to the ring. Very strategic in the way that WWE put that up there. Very cool. And you'll have to correct me on the details here because I'm a little fuzzy. But when you scan the QR code, there's something when you get to the source code of the QR code.
Yep.
I don't know if it's like exactly that QR code or if that QR code leads to something and then you get the source code of that. I don't remember the exact steps. Regardless, the source code in one of the White Rabbit clues, source code for all of you who don't know, is just a bunch of letters and symbols and numbers all mixed up, and that's how you write code for computer stuff. But in the middle of the source code, and right there, plain as day, are the first two lines to the theme song of Aleister Black.
Where's Brad when you need him?
Right? That's Brad's line right there. I just teed Brad up. That's it. Man, let's just say that it's not.
Right.
Let's just say that all this is true.
Mm-hmm.
Malachi has not been released. What do you make of that as we transition to WWE?
Credit to my wife.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I've been talking her head off about this White Rabbit thing is why I love Marvel stuff so much, is because there's Easter eggs in every Marvel movie and TV show you watch that sets up stuff for the future,
right?
References to the comics, things like that. So I've trained my eye when it comes to Marvel stuff to pick out the little details.
Sure.
Well, now I've trained my eye to pick up every little detail when it comes to the White Rabbit stuff.
Sure.
And she brought up the point because she never had listened to the Aleister Black theme. She only knows Malakai Black because we got married. She started watching wrestling. He was already in AEW.
Sure.
And she said, "Oh, that sounds like the Hurt and Heel from The Fiend. Like, no man is ever truly good. No man is ever truly evil." And I was like, that makes a lot of sense to me. That is a very good reference. So It's too obvious to be out like Aleister Black.
Sure.
And that's the thing with this whole. It's like some things are obvious, but it's not like in your face obvious like that. I don't think so. I don't know, man. There's so much going on. I'm sure. I mean, are we officially talking about the White Rabbit stuff now?
Yes, we are officially talking
Okay.
about we can transition to that. Yes.
Okay, because there's an area code that pops up at the end. And the area code sends you to Corbin, Kentucky.
Zip code. Yes.
Yes, zip code. It sends you to Corbin, Kentucky.
Yes.
There are multiple things there for Bray. We'll just stick to Bray Wyatt for right now.
Okay.
The last person Bray Wyatt faced before he turned into the Fiend was Baron Corbin.
Oh,
so there's one. The second one is there is a record label in Corbin, Kentucky called
White Rabbit
Records. And they posted a video like 20 minutes after this QR code went live, sending you to another zip code, area code for, I forget the state, but the Maine, Wyndham.
That's the key. Because when you type out Wyndham, Maine, and you use the abbreviation for the state of Maine, the abbreviation is ME. So it's Wyndham, me.
Yep. So, which if you don't know, Bray Wyatt's real name is Wyndham Rotunda. So there's that clue. And then the coordinates at the bottom, which I find the funniest, the coordinates that is like, because it's like a TikTok video.
Right.
And the coordinates for like the username sends you to a coordinates that were used in 2013 in Italy of a massive pink bunny that was just in the middle of a field. That's and when funny. You type that in, it sends you to that. So like there are so many things that point to it being Bray Wyatt at this point that if it's not Bray Wyatt, then whoever this is, I feel so bad for because it's not going to get a good reception if it's not Bray.
See, Triple H did an interview. What was it? Earlier this week?
I think
on the Ringer podcast?
I think so.
Where he said, they asked him straight up about this, and he said, the person behind this is someone nobody's talking about. Now, is Triple H trying to work us? Probably.
Yeah.
But let's just say for a minute that it is somebody nobody's talking about. I, again, throw the theory out of Joe Gacy, which would be terrible.
Yeah.
But nobody was talking about Malakai Black until this source code thing happened on Monday. I'm just saying.
I'll give you one. What if it's not a guy at all?
What if it's a girl?
Okay, what if it's Zelina Vega?
Okay.
I hate that idea. I don't want it to be that idea. But I mean, that obviously that ties in because of who her husband is.
Okay.
And she's been off TV for a while. Some people have said that it's Baron Corbin because obviously he has been off TV after he got kidnapped by JBL.
You're right.
But he went with JBL. He has to come back like a JBL style character. I don't think he comes back like this. The only other name that has been in my head, and it's because of Busted Open. So blame Dave LaGreca and Tommy Dreamer for this.
Oh gosh. Are you kidding?
What if it's the Undertaker?
It's not the Undertaker.
I don't think it is either.
Which, by the way, Dave LaGreca's rant about the Undertaker the other day on
it was amazing. It was amazing.
It was amazing, but it was stupid because Dave basically is calling out anybody that is saying that the Undertaker shouldn't have one more match, and saying that we're stupid if we don't think he should have one more match.
I'm fine with him having one more match if it's the right match. Hang on. Hold up. if it's like the right stipulation, the right opponent, and the right story.
Okay.
If it's honestly like a farewell tour, because I think Tommy brought this up.
Yeah.
If it's a farewell tour that starts at Survivor Series and he goes Survivor Series, Rumble, Mania, and his career ends at Mania, perfectly fine. Like, I think that's great. Imagine, because the match they kept talking about, and I'm all for it, Undertaker versus this version of Seth Rollins is amazing. Like, absolutely amazing. That would be fantastic if that was the case. I don't think it's going to be the Undertaker, though. I I don't see him showing up at WrestleMania.
Funny.
I think he might show up at WrestleMania. I don't think he's going to wrestle at WrestleMania.
Right.
And so if it's not Bray Wyatt and if it's not Malachi Black, because those are the only two that would, I think, pass the anger of the fans. I don't know who this other I don't know who the other person is.
I'll give you one. And this is so random, so far out of left field. What if it's John Cena? Follow me for a minute.
Okay.
What if you play to the fact that John Cena was in the Firefly Funhouse at WrestleMania?
Mm-hmm.
I know we've seen him since, but what if now that Vince is gone, we now see some sort of different side of Cena to end his career?
I don't know. I get like it might be cool. It depends on how it's depends on how it's portrayed. This feels like a spooky character.
Sure.
And I don't think that fits John.
Sure.
I don't
John
know.
Cena's a big Hollywood actor now, though. I mean,
but he's not that. He's not that great. He's not that good. Like, he's a good actor, but he's not that good to play that part.
I'm just saying. I don't even think it's a remote possibility. I'm just throwing names out there, but I'm just thinking of names that are free agents that nobody's talking about, that Triple H could literally pull a pun intended rabbit out of the hat.
Yeah.
And really get everybody truly talking. I don't know who else it could be.
I'm trying to think of all the people that were released that haven't shown up anywhere. I mean, it might be like an Eric Rowan.
Oh, that'd be so bad.
But I don't, unless they're planting the seeds for a Wyatt family return. But I think because of Brody Lee passing, I don't think they would ever do that again.
I don't think Bray would want to do that.
No.
If Bray's involved.
Right.
Man, I don't know who else. By the way, for those of you who are interested in this, I know everybody in the wrestling world is interested in this right now. Sam Roberts' podcast from Monday.
Yeah.
Y'all need to go back and listen to it. He lays out every single detail as to why this should be Bray Wyatt, and he does it in like 45 minutes. It is a fantastic podcast, even if you're not a Bray Wyatt fan. Like, I was enthralled by this podcast. Not saying I don't like Bray Wyatt, but I'm just saying, like, it was really, really good. Man, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know who else it could be. That would make sense.
I mean, maybe I don't want him back in the company. I don't think he'd be good.
Uh-oh.
But maybe an EC3.
Yeah, with this spooky kind of control your narrative thing that he was doing. Could be. Man, I don't know.
I've got a list of like
the releases
of like wrestling free agents.
Okay.
And I don't see anybody that like could be Cardona, but I doubt it.
I just thought of that. I think I'm not saying Matt Cardona is not at this level, but it's too intricate of storytelling. I think
it's too deep.
It's too deep for Cardona.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, it has to be someone that is known for taking in little details and making them important. Bray Wyatt.
Or that could just be a lot of Triple H.
That's true.
And a lot of that creative crew. You know what I mean?
But I feel like if you're going to have somebody take that character, you want to have somebody that's just as creative so it doesn't become stale quickly.
I think there's only two other people that this could be if it's not Bray Wyatt. And it's not going to be either one of them because they're already revealed to us.
Right.
Edge and Karrion Kross. That's it.
I think Kross is involved.
See, I don't know because I'll take Sam Roberts' theory on this. Like, Cross is established, so he doesn't need Bray to get him
Right, but
established.
I think he may be like the target. Like I think that may be
Oh, okay, yeah. That makes
because
sense then.
I mean you could look at the hourglass in the corner from week 1, and then SmackDown in 9:23 they went to commercial, but when they went to commercial it was on Karrion Cross,
Cross,
so it could
right?
be that.
And Cross was the White Rabbit in Lucha
In
Underground.
Lucha Underground, so I think it
Could
may
be.
be just a target, like whoever this is picking their target, and it could be Bray. Honestly, like I know when we did the whole Edge thing, like it was like week 1, we both were like it's 50-50, it's either Bray Wyatt, it's Edge, or Edge, and then week 2 we were like it's 1,000% Edge. It's not even close to being Bray Wyatt.
Right.
This one I'm the other way. Like this is like 99.9% Bray Wyatt. And I think Triple H saying it's somebody that nobody has talked about, maybe like a little tongue-in-cheek thing because we're talking about Bray Wyatt. We're not talking about Wyndham Rotunda. So like he could come back as Wyndham Rotunda. Like he could come back with his name and be a part of that. He could come back as Husky Harris. Like I don't think so. I hope not.
I think Sam Roberts was spot on. And again, I got to give credit to Sam. What a great podcast. Go back and listen to it if you haven't. I don't think it's a matter of if it's Bray Wyatt. It's what version of Bray Wyatt do we now see?
And I think it's a completely different version than anything we've seen before.
I do too, and that's the wild part of this whole thing.
And that's
what is that guy going to do next?
And that's what makes me so excited about this, because I feel like whatever the character is going to be, I feel like it's going to be a mix of Cult Leader Bray Wyatt, Fiend mixed together. Because we know he can be charismatic in any type of role that he plays in. Like a kid's TV show host in wrestling should not work ever. And it was literally the most popular thing. Every time it came on, like people were dying to watch. People still go back and watch the Firefly Funhouse segments all the time. So
I get to relive them every week on PBWF.
You
and
do.
If you haven't relived them yet, please check out PBWF.
I
will miss those promos. When Bray comes back, I will miss those promos.
And who knows? They may come back and like it may be. They may come back. Just they may look different. Like those promos the style may come back. It just may be something completely different.
Right. The kids' TV show host is just
amazing.
The most genius thing ever. Speaking of people that have come back in WWE, let's move on from the White Rabbit. There's going to be a lot more of this discussion coming up next week. So obviously don't miss out on that because this is still going to continue probably through Extreme Rules. Maybe it'll show up at Extreme Rules. I don't know. But anyway, Candice LeRae is back in the WWE, and we were texting about it. With Johnny Gargano being here, it was only a matter of time. And Johnny's Instagram post was fantastic. Did you see it?
I did.
Where he has the picture and he says, "Okay, Quill wasn't my only training partner." So, welcome back, Candace. I'm pumped that she's back, man.
And I think we have our War Games match set up already.
We still need a fourth on the other side.
Indy Hartwell. I'm picking Indy Hartwell to come in because I think Bailey is picking people that didn't get their moment to shine in NXT. And I think Indy kind of fits that mold. Plus, Indy and Candace have a lot of history together. Yep. So I think that could play a massive role in that as well. So I think the team, at least one team, is Candace, Bianca, Alexa, and Asuka. Unless Bray Wyatt comes back and Alexa Bliss falls out of it, and then we go from there.
No, not going to happen. The Poison Pixies will be together just as booked on the Revolution brand of PBWF. Okay, you're not taking that away from me. It's going to happen.
I wouldn't be shocked if it happened.
Just saying. It's great.
But I do think we are heading to those four versus Control Damage and somebody else, a part of Control Damage.
It makes too much sense. I mean, with them coming in, and then we saw their little run in last week, and you got Candace versus Dakota this week. I still think that fourth is not Indy. I still think it's Raquel. I think Raquel turns, and I think she becomes number 4 because they need a big heater, and that would just fit perfect. Her and
Raquel
Dakota
and
back
Bianca would be
together.
cool.
Yeah, that would be a cool matchup to have. And I can see Bailey and Dakota sort of fighting over Raquel's services, and that's a kink in the armor and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
but Candace is back. I can't wait to see Candace matches, man. I can't wait to see Candace and Alexa one-on-one, Candace Bianca, Candace Asuka. I mean, I don't think people in WWE, I'm talking about people that work there, I'm talking about fans. I don't think WWE fans realize how good of a wrestler that Candice LeRae is, because we only got a snippet in NXT.
Yeah. Yeah, she fits the indie style of wrestling very well. If for reference, go back and watch her. I think it was her and Joey Janela versus the Young Bucks. In PWG, and she was bleeding like crazy. Like they were tossing her around the ring, and she was giving it right back. Also, I forget the promotion, but there is a match out there of Johnny Gargano versus Candice LeRae, which is very fun to watch. I would encourage you to go find that one and watch. Look, she had a great match with Nikki ASH. Like, and I'm not saying that's impossible because Nikki's not. I think people forget Nikki ASH is actually pretty decent in the ring. But Candice LeRae, they had a great match. It looks like Nikki may be losing the ASH gimmick.
Yep.
Please bring back Nikki Cross and Sanity-esque style, because that would be fantastic to have that version of the character back.
And put her with Bray Wyatt.
Or Karrion Kross, one of the two.
Or Karrion Kross, there you go.
Karrion Kross, Nikki Cross, there you go. But yeah, I'm glad she's back, and I think she will be. I think she's going to be a massive help in the women's division. I don't think WWE's women's division needs a lot of help, but she's going to boost it even more.
Yep, she definitely is. Speaking of people that have come back, Dexter Loomis is still doing his psychopathic Miz stalking. I don't know what you call it. Are you still enjoying it? What do you think?
I think it's just funny week to week. I just think it's funny how he keeps attacking Miz. I hope we never get a payoff, and this is just what happens each and every week of the Miz gets attacked. I saw on Twitter a cartoon or something that somebody drew that I hope happens next week of Miz getting in bed at home thinking it's Maurice, and he goes to cuddle up next to her, and it's Dexter Loomis with a wig on and just chokes him out. Like, I hope we get crazier with it. I hope it gets more fun. As of right now, we haven't had a match scheduled for Extreme Rules. That may change. That may happen. But I'm still having fun with it. Like, I think Miz is doing his part really well. Dexter Loomis obviously is a part of the show don't tell crowd where he doesn't say anything and he just shows how creepy he is. And he's done that very, very well.
I just was curious as if I can't talk. Try it again. Was curious if it was getting stale or, I'm still having fun with it. I think it's really interesting. I would like to know a little bit more about why. Yep. I think I'd like to get into that just a little bit, but at the same time, I think it's just really wild to, where's he going to pop up next? Speaking of something that is really wild, one of the most overused terms in the world of wrestling broadcasting is when big guys get in the ring, they talk about reinforcing the ring.
Yeah.
Andy, it was shown on camera, whether it actually happened legit or not, on SmackDown on Friday, before the Braun Strowman and Otis match, the ring was being reinforced. As an old school wrestling fan, that was a cool moment for me. Like, we actually see the ring being reinforced. Like, that was cool.
That was cool. And I loved it. Like, it's two just big men beating the crap out of each other.
Yep.
I don't know if you saw on kind of sticking with Otis. I don't know if you saw on Raw when Austin Theory was talking to him. He was starting to do the oh yeahs again, like Heavy Machinery version of Otis. Which if we're going to get Heavy Machinery Otis back, I'm all for that at some point because I loved that version of Otis. I love this version of Otis as well, but I think we may be heading back to that point.
I mean, he's growing his beard back a little bit. They referenced heavy machinery on commentary. Like,
I could see at some point Chad Gable turning on him. And because the rumor right now is that Triple H is going to start bringing in some guy, like some people that we aren't talking about, that we're not even on our radar. I could see Tucky being one of those guys making the save, and then Heavy Machinery going back out, because they were great. Like, they got over with the fans very quickly.
Yep.
And so I could definitely see that coming back.
Especially Otis, man.
He's
Even
so
if they
funny.
if they don't bring Tuck back, like at least Otis coming out there and doing his thing. I mean, could you imagine? They have been fantastic. I'm not saying they're a comedy act, but they have been so good with this comedy stuff recently.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine if Tucky was, or sorry, if Otis was a babyface and
Oh
they
my
still
gosh.
did the comedy stuff? Oh man, so good.
Chad Gable is this generation's version of Kurt Angle, just without the championships.
Right.
Like, the dude is so funny.
Yep.
He is obvious. Like, he's the guy that when somebody comes back, and you're like, all right, throw him in there with Chad Gable, and Chad will make him look like $1 million, and Chad looks good. Because the match with him and Johnny Gargano from a couple weeks ago was
so good,
amazing. Kevin Owens and Chad Gable have had some bangers over the last couple weeks as well. So I love it. I hope we continue this. I am starting the campaign now. WrestleMania next year, Chad Gable needs to win the WWE Championship. Like, he needs to be world champion next year. Because
you're talking about WrestleMania 40, right?
WrestleMania 40. WrestleMania 40.
What?
Because WrestleMania 39, I'm pushing for Sami Zayn to win a world title, because the dude absolutely deserves it. If he is the one to beat Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, I will be the guy that will pop the most. Even if it's not Cody, I will cheer for Sami Zayn, because that dude absolutely deserves to have a world championship at some point.
Unbelievable. Are you kidding me?
My list has come back to 2 now.
And Sami Zayn
is on my list. He is on my list.
Sami Zayn is the 2. He's not the 1.
He's not the 1 yet, but he keeps doing what he did on SmackDown and on Raw. He might be there pretty quick.
Let's talk about what he did on SmackDown. You talk about one of the absolute best promo segments in a long time.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn had every single person watching, hook, line, and sinker, that he was kicking Sami out of the bloodline.
And Jey Uso was selling it like crazy. Like, Jey Uso was like a dog foaming at the mouth, ready to attack at any second, any moment.
And then Roman said, "Here's your new shirt."
And the pop that he got when he put that shirt on, him going over and doing the handshake with Jimmy is always so funny. Him hugging Solo, like, all of it was great.
Yep.
This is going to be, I'm calling it now, this is going to be Kevin Owens turning on Jericho level of sadness when the bloodline turns on Sami Zayn. Like, it's going to be devastating. And that's part of the reason why I could see Sami getting the fans behind him enough to push him to WrestleMania to be the guy to beat Roman. Like, I think it could be a Kofi Kingston scenario all over again. And we talk about Roman's title reign being the thing to elevate someone to the next level. It would elevate Sami to that level in a million ways.
I just don't see it. Tell you what I do see. Was it, who said it? Was it on Busted Open, or was it Ryan Satin that said that this should be Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn taking the title off the Usos?
I could see that too.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
And that happening at WrestleMania, in my opinion, is just as big for Sami Zayn as winning a world title, because he's winning a tag title with his best friend.
Yeah.
On the biggest stage of them all. Like, I'm all for that.
I'm all for that too. I think there is an outside chance that Sami could get that match at Mania. Obviously, one, because we know Triple H is a big Sami Zayn guy, and we see that from NXT. And I could see, honestly, all of this breaks down at War Games. The bloodline may lose because of Sami. Sami's the one that gets pinned.
Mm-hmm.
They turn on Sami that night. The Rumble, we have Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns for the World Championship. he beats him. They start to beat him down again. That's when Kevin makes the save, and then you could go to that storyline for WrestleMania with the tag titles.
Yep.
But I still could see Sami Zayn being the guy to beat him at WrestleMania this year if the fans got behind it enough, like they did with Kofi a couple years ago.
I could see Sami being the one to cost Roman the titles.
I could see that too.
He loses because of Sami, intentionally or unintentionally. Then once Roman doesn't have the titles, Sami's free to beat him. I just don't see that happening, because I think I just go back to, man, if Roman and Rock is happening, those belts have to be there.
See, I don't think so.
I think they do.
They don't need the championship.
They don't need it.
I think the Samoan family dynasty is bigger than the WWE championship because of what Roman has done. I mean, the reason why Solo Sikoa, and they gave it on SmackDown, showed up was because the family sent him. So,
Sure.
like, I feel like the family aspect adds even more to it. Roman and Rock does not need that championship at all, because that gives away the finish way too easy, in my opinion.
Right. It absolutely does. But having said that, if Roman is not champion, the bloodline is no longer as strong and in need for the elders, whoever, to send Rock to straighten Roman out.
Unless The Rock is the one that cost Roman at some other pay-per-view.
Well, unless that's
because he's gone rogue on his own and wants to take out the head of the table himself. I think that is the direction to go, because could you imagine Roman being down, let's say, for fun, Sami Zayn is in the ring at the Rumble and The Rock's music hits and he just comes flying out there, costs Roman the championship, Sami gets the win. The place would go crazy, obviously, because Sami got the win, The Rock was there, Roman was beaten, and now Roman has a reason not only to be mad at The Rock, to go after The Rock at WrestleMania, but then after he takes care of The Rock at WrestleMania, can go back after the titles, and then somebody could beat him.
I don't know. I like it. I can get behind it in a certain scenario, but man, if I'm going back to the basics of you put your biggest match possible in the main event of WrestleMania, all the stakes, all the cards, those titles have to be there, in my opinion.
The only other thing you could do also is put Rock's career on the line. Like,
I think that's happening anyway.
Right, but I think The Rock's career is bigger than the championships as well. Like, you don't need the titles to do that.
Yeah. Title versus career, though.
Streak versus career, because he's on that however long.
That's true. Yeah.
So he could drop the title maybe some other way. I don't know how.
I don't know. We're going down a rabbit hole. You know what that means.
It all should have just happened with Drew. Drew should have just been the guy to beat him, and we'd have been done with this by now.
We would have. You are correct. And listen, we still got Austin Theory looming. We still got all of that scenario that could play out.
Could you imagine The Rock beats Roman at WrestleMania?
No.
And Theory cashes in on The Rock to get the title off The Rock, put the titles on Theory. Could you imagine?
I'll throw you another scenario out. We didn't talk about this last week. Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul in Saudi Arabia. Logan Paul gets the dub, and then Austin Theory cashes in on Logan Paul, so that they get all of the headlines that Logan Paul was the champion.
I think if Vince McMahon was still in charge, that would absolutely almost be guaranteed to happen.
You're right.
I think Triple H is doing this because it's a Saudi Arabia show. He knows the fans don't really care about these pay-per-views, and it'll sell. And like the Saudi Arabia crowd, probably, if I'm sure they know who Logan Paul is, they'll be out there. They'll be there for the match, blah blah, whatever. Roman can handle him. You could even have Logan Paul hold up the championships during the match to get your little picture, and then kill him. I'll say this: if Logan Paul beats Roman Reigns, even if it is to put the titles on Theory, a lot of fans are going to lose a lot of trust in Triple H very quickly. Yep. And I don't think that's if if this White Rabbit is not Bray Wyatt and Logan Paul beats Roman Reigns, Triple H is 0 for 2 very quickly in a big way, and it would be hard to recover from that.
That's true. That is very, very true. I guess we got to trust the process, trust the system. We'll see what happens. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. Hope you guys have enjoyed hanging out with us and our takes. And if you don't like it, well, I'm sure there's another wrestling podcast down the street that you can check out. Here we are, though. We're going to keep trucking along doing what we're doing. If you haven't checked out the PBWF on Mondays, make sure you do that. Andy, we are headed down the home stretch to pay-per-view number 3, the halfway point. Week 12 episode will drop next Monday, and then the week after, man, it's pay-per-view number 3. We're halfway home.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of fun. We obviously peek behind the curtain have already recorded the pay-per-view, and they're both a lot of fun with a lot of interesting things that happen all across the board. And so it's gonna be a lot of fun.
It's very cool. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Hope you guys enjoy it. Hope you guys are digging what we're doing. If you are, leave us that 5-star review, subscribe wherever you find your podcast, and of course on the bodyslam.net YouTube channel. Follow us at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I will be on vacation next week, so Andy will be flying solo. And that's not Solo Sokoa. That is solo number 1 on the podcast, unless he can find somebody to fill in for me, which that's fine. But I am on vacation, so I will not be here, and I will rejoin the following week when we talk all about the fallout of Extreme Rules.
What is up with you making me do pay-per-view previews by myself? This is like the 3rd pay-per-view in a row where I've had to preview it by myself.
That is true. I timed that out so well, don't I?
Hey, it's fun.
Timed that out so well.
I would rather preview a pay-per-view by myself than try to talk about the week-to-week stuff by myself.
Yeah, but you could do an hour on the White Rabbit by yourself.
Oh, I could do 24 hours on the right. I could drive myself insane talking about this White Rabbit thing. For my sanity, I hope he shows up at Extreme Rules.
Oh, my goodness. All right, y'all. That is going to do it for this edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. Give us a follow. Give us a like. We would appreciate it very much. For Mr. Andy York, my name is Chris Belcher. Thanks again for hanging out with us. We will catch you guys down the road.